Okay, what's happening on this Wednesday? Welcome into 104.5 The Zone. We're very happy to have you here. Lucas Panzica and myself are with you until 1 o'clock, 615-737. 104.5 is how you join the discussion. So, the Titans are on the practice field here in a couple of hours. I imagine they'll be in the bubble today. First day of on-field work before they head out to Los Angeles and try and get off the schneid a little bit. Rare to see a 3-game losing streak under Mike Vrabel. It's only happened twice in his Titans tenure, once in 2018 and now this latest skid. So how can they kind of get right against an opponent that looked pretty good on Sunday Night Football? Good morning, bud.
Good morning.
Nothing to see here this morning, huh?
You cut it close there.
Yeah.
I was in the green room seeing if we wanted a repeat of last time for Kayla and Will and them to come in and roast you for a bit.
You were close.
I was.
But no dice.
Why were you late?
I wasn't late.
Why were you almost late? If you're here after 10 a.m., I consider you late, and you were here at about 10:01.
Okay. So I left on time. And I was sitting at this is going to be very, very good radio, by the way. I was sitting at the corner of Charlotte and 18th. All right, coming from north side of town. It's just a real quick trip for me across the Jubilee Bridge. Drop me right into Midtown. I've made it in 9 minutes before. This woman is sitting in front of me at the light, but she's not far enough at the light to set off the thing that would turn on, that would trigger the left turn signal. So it's just turning green and she's not going because she's trying to turn left. You know what I'm saying? Like she's not far enough up in the lane to trigger the sensor to turn left, to trigger the left turn signal on the stoplight. So she sits there, I kid you not, through 2 lights. And I feel bad because she's got a handicap sticker and I'm trying to be respectful. And I'm just laying on my horn. I have to make some, for the police in the audience, earmuffs. I have to make some evasive maneuvers, and here we are, right on time.
I lost interest in what you were saying about 2 minutes ago.
I tried to explain to you. I told you it wasn't good radio.
It's a roundabout way for you to try to explain how it's not your fault when it is still very much your fault.
It's not my fault. It's that woman's fault.
No, it's not, because when you
I left on time.
But clearly you didn't leave ample time in case something like that were to happen.
I'm not accounting. Well, how often am I going to? Okay. I should probably understand this about Nashville drivers by now, of which I am one, by the way, and I'm not great at times. But I am cognizant enough of how the stoplights work to understand that if the thing is not going off, you need to pull forward a little bit. Like, just pull forward a little bit. So it sets the trigger off, and everybody else can turn instead of sitting there through 2 lights. That is not my fault.
The root issue here is not leaving enough room for those things happening. Because when you leave saying, yeah, sure, if everything goes smoothly like it usually does, I'll get to work on time. But if one tiny little thing goes awry on my drive, I'll be late, then that is still your fault.
It gets me amped for the show. I got to wake myself up. There's a fire truck sitting across the street here.
Yeah, building's on fire next door.
I could have blamed it on that. I feel like that would have been a reasonable excuse. I hope everybody's okay before I make light of that. Anyway, 615-737-1045. Nothing to see here. Everybody's fine. Speaking of fine, the Titans injury report. So we have discussed this at some length. So did you see this stat yesterday that they have now achieved 80 players, which puts them 80 players who have put on that uniform and played in a game for the Tennessee Titans, which again puts them number 1 in terms of players used in a season. The record is 91. Which they set last year.
And they did not play John Reed, the newly acquired corner, on Sunday, right?
No.
So that's a potential 81st.
Oh, my God.
I'm just trying to think of who else could suit up for this team that hasn't yet.
Well, I mean, they found new bodies, right? New GM finding different bodies. I don't know if they're any better or they're any worse, and there's no difference at left tackle right now.
So who'd they add on Sunday? Basham.
Oh, let me pull up the
and
list.
Racy.
So to the active roster, Basham and Racy, because you mean to the list of 80 players?
Yeah, this list
Basham,
of getting on the field.
Basham, Racy, no different corners or defensive backs played because Josh Thompson is already suited up for this team.
Yeah, and that wasn't the first snaps LaRaven Clark's played this year.
No,
right?
He has played. He played in the Eagles game because we came back and said, "Oh my God, that's what he looks like don't do that either. So now they are again at the top of the injury report with a ton of money sitting on IR, with only 3 spots remaining to get players back off of IR, and a lot of complicated decisions because, I mean, I don't know what to make of the Danico Autry thing because I can't remember if you and I were having this conversation yesterday or if this was something we were talking about in the press box on Sunday. The idea that they're just not putting him on IR because
we talked about
this yesterday. Yeah. The idea that they're just not putting him on IR because, oh my God, they're not going to have enough spots.
Yeah. They have 3 guys that they can bring back from IR before hitting that 8-player maximum.
And we're still talking about guys who, I mean, theoretically should make a difference for this team, like Kyle Phillips. But I don't know. That dude has been a contributor really in 1 game. And that was the first game of the season in which he got hurt and the shoulder thing. I have no idea whether he's even going to be able to come back or not. Like, that's the thing. If it's gone on this long, it's like Racy with the hip. It's kind of a coin flip. So Mike Vrabel didn't give us any updates specifically to Kyle Phillips. We'll see who practices today because obviously that's going to be of critical importance. Treylon Burks dealing with the concussion. Is he able to return? It took Ben Jones a little longer. I don't know if that's because Ben's had concussions before and I don't know what goes into the individual. I imagine it's very specific to how the individual responds, how they clear him out of concussion protocol.
Will you remind me which game Danico got injured?
Danico got injured in Green Bay.
In Green Bay.
Yes. So he didn't play basically the second half against the Packers.
Okay, so in IR, you miss a minimum of 4 games.
You were required to miss at least 4.
So if Danico were to miss this Sunday,
that would be 4.
That would be 4. And yeah, you're looking at them just not being able to really afford putting him on IR and having to just eat that roster spot.
Which just, I mean, they're already super inflexible at this point as far as personnel is concerned. Because I was telling Lucas this morning, and the solution is what? Get healthy. That's the most frustrating part about this. I don't mean to laugh at it. I don't mean to make light, but like it just sucks. Like I can't. You can go through all the Todd Downings and you can go through all the Mike Vrabel personnel decisions, whatever conversations you want to have. Round and round it goes. But like at the end of the day, it's just like, oh my God, they're the Walking Dead again. They're the worst for the second year in a row. And it comes back to all right, who do you blame? And I'm really not interested in having the same redundant kind of, the training staff needs to be evaluated and questioned. I'm not saying that they don't. I'm saying that we need to think about different ways to go about this because the last time that we talked to Mike Vrabel about it, I think his response was something to the effect of, well, I don't ever remember saying when I was hurt as a player, oh, that trainer really sucked, that kind of stuff. Strength and conditioning. The soft tissue stuff, yeah, maybe there's some kind of correlation, but the call that we got from London that really made me think about this, and this is probably an off-season question because the last thing that Mike wants to talk about is injuries. And furthermore, how are you potentially not doing everything that you can to mitigate these injuries, Mike? Is the sports science element of it. Like what are the protocols that are in place? What are the practices that they employ to help identify in a sport where it's pretty complicated because literally every player, it's not like basketball, it's not like baseball. Literally every player is an injury risk by nature of what this thing is. The closest thing we have to blood sport, gladiators, right? They're just ramming into each other on every play. It's not like that in basketball. You can do the legitimate analysis in basketball and baseball to identify, okay, based on how you want to structure the contracts, based on this person's injury history, what is the nature of the injury specifically, and is that something that's recurring, or is it just a couple of different things that have happened in different spots? Football, they're all injury risks. So to look at this again and talk, we can talk about players who they need to get back and who it looks like is closest to coming back. Because I had a conversation with Mina. She texted me yesterday, Mina Kimes at ESPN. She's doing a game preview at some point for the network on Chargers and Titans, and she was asking me, hey, who do you guys expect to come back this week? And I'm looking at the list. I'm like, oh, I don't know. Maybe Treylon? Maybe. And that's not even fair to say that because I don't know what his concussion situation, how severe it is. I saw him post on Instagram the other day, blessed, but what does that mean?
Yeah, Sunday will be 2 weeks since the concussion suffered in Philly.
But, Blaine explained that hit to me on the Marcus Epps hit on Treylon Burks that did not draw even a fine, much less an ejection. And Blaine, I assume he talked about it at some point last week where he said, based on his evaluation as a defensive back, that's a legal hit, which is why the player didn't get ejected, which is why the player didn't get fined. And yet still, Traylon Burks is, concussed and in a pile of himself and now struggling to get back on the field.
But other than him, I mean, that's a guy, concussion protocol, that he could come out of any day or next week.
Sure.
So you look at Burks as a possibility to be back in Los Angeles. Who else?
Yeah.
Like Vrabel's going to get asked about, we'll hear from him at 11:45, but he's going to get asked about Danico. He's going to be asked about Christian Fulton.
He's going to say, we'll see how it goes. That's all the update you're getting out of Mike on this stuff. Christian Fulton is interesting because it's not the hamstring stuff that was bothering him earlier in the year. Now it's a groin, and it was significant enough for him to miss a game in between that. He's missed a little bit of time this season, but had missed the last game, obviously. And how significant of a groin injury is it? I imagine that a groin is quite difficult to navigate if you're a football player, much less a defensive back.
That's Blaine.
Blaine or Elijah Molden, who can't get right off the groin injury. So we'll hear from the head coach at 11:45. Ryan Tannehill will speak as well. We'll carry that for you at 12:15, and we'll take a look at the Chargers specifically and how it is that these two teams match up. 615-737-1045 is how you join the conversation if you so choose. Mike Giardi of the NFL Network is going to get into some stuff around the league with us, as well as the Titans. He's covered their last couple of games. Coming up next.
The Buck Rising Show is powered by Spring Hill Heating and Cooling. Visit springhillac.com.
I'm laughing to myself in here because Lucas and I are talking about the trip to L.A. this weekend, and you've never been. You're very excited to go. I have done that trip several times. We went actually twice last year. They played the Rams on Sunday Night Football, and then 3HL and myself and Kirby, we all went out to Super Bowl at SoFi Stadium. But you're looking forward to this.
I am. I've never been to L.A., the Windy City.
What? What is this? What is this thing that you're doing that you just completely changed? Like the catch, you tried to do this to David Tyree the other day. You tried to make the catch Chicago's. You're trying to change Chicago's moniker to L.A. What are you doing?
It's the helmet catch.
Is there some kind of like what? I don't understand. What's the bit? Or just to watch me sit here confused as to what you're doing, trying to figure out where it fits in the show.
Chicago's not the Windy City. You're just making that up.
No.
I will agree to disagree.
What? No, that's not how that works. We're excited for the LA trip, and it's got nothing to do with the game. That's the problem. We're sitting here talking about everything else that we're going to do in Los Angeles this weekend instead of, the thing that we're out there to do, which is the actual game, which does not sound terribly appealing right now. And so as you look at the playoff standings, because I mean, like anything can happen in a realistic situation where the NFL is just flat weird.
I disagree, by the way. I'm looking forward to the game.
Okay, what are you looking forward to about the game?
I'm looking forward to seeing the Tennessee Titans play Justin Herbert and the LA Chargers at SoFi Stadium.
Okay, I don't believe you.
That's a fun thing to me.
Well, I mean, it is fun to watch Justin Herbert. I don't know if Titans fans are going to enjoy the experience of him against their secondary at present, I guess is the way that I would put it into context. But, I mean, they can find ways to exploit the things that the Chargers don't do well. The Chargers do not pass protect well. Now, the Titans have struggled to get to the quarterback as of late, so it doesn't theoretically look like a great matchup. But in any NFL game, at any given point, your weaknesses can be exposed. So, yes, they do have an opportunity to get an important win within the conference, and for the purposes of tiebreaker scenarios, as they try and suffocate the Jags out of this thing after they already blew it on Sunday, yeah, they could really, really use one. Not just because that would mean 4 straight losses and really, really jeopardizing your ability to win this division as cleanly as you should have been able to do. So now you look at the situation for the rest of the playoff standings, and it's not really shifted as much as you might have expected. I really thought the Ravens were going to go into Pittsburgh and lose. I really did not think that Tyler Huntley, much less Anthony Brown, would be able to handle that after Tyler Huntley went out, because they're already without Lamar Jackson, and that offense is just brutal. This is absolutely brutal, but they're finding ways to win games. The Ravens are 9-4. They're hanging on to the AFC North. Bengals are right there keeping pace. They beat the Browns this past Sunday, but the Titans are currently holding on to that 4 spot and would project to host Cincinnati. Have you had a chance to, I don't know if you watched that Chargers-Dolphins game on Sunday night. I caught the second half live, and then I watched the first half back this morning. It looks like, now Tua's playing poorly. That has a lot to do with it. Like, I don't think like they've figured out the Dolphins by any stretch of the imagination, but the NFL has clearly been able to kind of rein that thing in a little bit in ways that it was not as effective it was way more effective earlier in the season, the Dolphins offense.
Okay, you confused me when you said the NFL's been able to rein that thing in. So NFL teams.
Last couple of weeks, right? Coaching staffs have started to figure out ways that they can disrupt that thing. And it looked like for a while, because they have some deficiencies. Their offensive line's not great either. They've been struggling with their tackle situation. They signed the former number 1 overall pick, Eric Fisher, whom many of you wanted. That experiment, to me, does not look all that much more pleasing than what you're dealing with on Sundays. Although, again, Dennis Daly is the lowest graded tackle in the NFL by any metric that you look at. Particularly the Pro Football Focus evaluations, not just the grades, but as far as like pass block win rate and stuff like that. He's just getting dusted on a regular basis. So as we look at the postseason standings right now, Bills still the 1 seed, Chiefs 2, Ravens 3, Titans 4. Bengals, Dolphins, Patriots have now snuck back in. So the Chargers are in the hunt graphic. And the Chargers need this win as badly as you do. They need it worse than you do because you're in the playoffs and they're theoretically out right now. So they're trying to clamor and get back in. They've got tiebreakers over the Jets, who are also 7-6. They've got the tiebreaker over the Jets based on the win percentage in conference games. And, of course, the Jags are the Jags are right there, too, 5-8, with tiebreakers over Cleveland and Las Vegas, as we mentioned earlier in the week, trying to see if they can't scrounge this thing out and hope for a little bad luck for Tennessee along the way. I don't know how this game specifically plays out because Herbert looks right now to be managing the pressure well. The Dolphins' defense is having some struggles. They've had good spurts, but they've not been an overwhelmingly great unit this year. And Los Angeles, the way that they've kind of figured life out, and they're starting to get healthier, right? Joey Bosa is going to come back. That's going to make a difference for their defense. Brandon Staley talked about this 2 days ago. They're pretty optimistic that Joey Bosa and Rashawn Slater, the stud left tackle, could return from injured reserve this season. Now, how soon that happens remains to be seen. Bosa, it sounds like, is closer than Rashawn Slater. And, who's to say that they'll be immediately right out the gate? They've missed a considerable amount of time at this point. But the Chargers are hanging on to that last spot in, or trying to clamor in to the last spot after the Monday Night Football result between the Patriots and the Cardinals. The Patriots then leapfrogged them. So they're looking for any advantage they can have right now. And they've arguably dealt with as many they have not dealt with as many injuries as the Titans have. Because again, as we open the show with, the Titans again have dressed the most players in an NFL game than any other team this season. So the circumstance is still not ideal at this point. Mike Giardi of the NFL Network is going to join us here in just a second. And we'll get Mike's thoughts on where things kind of stack up. I think the most interesting games this weekend, because Cosell and myself, we're going to talk about this later on this evening. The Bills and the Dolphins are going to have a rematch. And Miami got the better of Buffalo in Miami in that first one. This is obviously a critical game for the purposes of seeding. Chiefs have the Texans. I imagine that's going to be the biggest betting line of the year. I haven't seen a line for that just yet. But as far as the AFC is concerned, the Chiefs at the Texans, Dolphins at the Bills, and the Ravens at the Browns this weekend are probably the most impactful games for the Titans as they kind of try and figure out this thing, or at least hold on and hope for a little bad luck for Baltimore so that they can host Baltimore as opposed to hosting Cincinnati, which I'm sure everybody would handle rationally. Mike Giardi of the NFL Network is here, but he's on Zoom. Are you on camera? I didn't know you were going to be here today.
I am brightening your day. I know you're feeling a little down and you need to pick me up, and that's what I'm here for.
Wait, why am I feeling down? What's wrong with me?
Wait a minute. What's wrong with you? Where do you want me to start?
Those are two different
We're
questions.
going to do a whole segment on that? You can do a full show, a full week of shows.
All right. Okay. Take your best shot. What's most wrong with me today, Giardi?
Oh boy. Well, I mean, you're very much in love with yourself. I don't know that people know this, that you have a mirror that's like right there, so you can just look at yourself while you're doing the thing.
Yeah. It's
just
true.
so you feel good about yourself. Like, boy, I look good today. By the way, are you going to make your weight? Wasn't it by Christmas?
No, it was by Super Bowl. Bleep off. I'm going to make my weight. I look great right now.
Lucas, wasn't it by? I thought it was by Christmas.
No.
It just for the sake of accuracy, it was by Super Bowl 200. I think there was a training camp deadline, and then that was not met. By the way,
I missed the training,
and a Super Bowl deadline that I do think he is on pace for, but holidays still to come.
Yeah. See, no way. You're packing on like 10 pounds between Christmas and New Year.
Oh no, baby, we're in fighting shape. 206.2 this morning, Giardi. I'm going to clear this in stride. I'm going to be out there in my swimsuit in Glendale when we go out there for Super Bowl.
No.
Get a load of that, big boy.
Leave the shirt on, please, for all of us. Extra layers.
There's no worse person than the person who keeps their shirt on in the swimming pool. Like that
That is true.
It's
but you wonder. No, you wonder what's wrong with that guy, right?
Yeah.
You like. Does he have like some sort of like skin thing he's got going on, or like I don't know.
Should
I
you
don't know.
even
I'm
be
with
in
you.
the same pool with the person who has their shirt on? You have no idea what kind of fungal infections are being brought in there. There's
That's
all
true.
manner of things
I'm
that
out.
could be wrong.
That guy comes in the pool. I'm out of the pool.
Hey, what's wrong with the Titans?
Oh boy, where do we start, huh?
It sounds like an earlier conversation.
Yeah, I'm a little confused by it because I don't think we've seen this from a Vrabel team. Maybe the first year, but I think since that loss to Cincinnati, for whatever reason, and maybe it was just being out physicaled by a team that you thought you could push around, that maybe that shook their confidence a little bit. Obviously, we know offensively it's a struggle, especially in the passing game, to get anything going. And if Burks isn't playing as he was coming on, then that just tampers you even more. There's very little in terms of explosive plays being made out there by that receiving core. So to me, it's more of an internal thing of like, I feel like they've lost some confidence. And I think one of the things that we've talked about with Vrabel teams, and it's an intangible, but there's a toughness level to that team and a mental toughness level to that team that I think has been almost unmatched. I mean, even go back to last year in the playoff game, which I know, the number one seed, you lose that game at home, but the defense did everything they possibly could to win that game. And it was just continued waves of coming at Burrow and trying to make that a game when your offense was, clearly stuck in neutral. So, I don't really have any great answers. They're just not playing well. And I think there's a confidence issue now. And it's really, I think the leaders of this team now have to kind of get together and be like, dude, what are we doing? We still have an opportunity here to host a home playoff game and do some damage. At least the team that we saw 3 weeks ago could do that. Now, I don't know about this one, but it is troubling.
No, this one sucks. Like, this one objectively sucks right now. It's been pretty interesting to see it play out, Mike, because Danico Autry is not the most heralded player on this football team. Jeff Simmons is, rightly so. He's a first-round pick. He's got the pedigree. He's got the talent. He's got the skill. But things really shrivel up defensively without Danico in the lineup. Like, even in 2020 when they had Jeff and Harold healthy, and obviously Clowney and Beasley and those flops we've talked about before, but it's crazy to me just how big a shell of themselves they are at the thing that made them the most special when that dude can't play. And if he misses this week again, that's 4 weeks. They didn't put him on injured reserve, Mike, but we think here it's because they're kind of trying to hoard those returning spots that they've had because they've already had to use 5 of the 8.
Yeah, I mean, look, we know how Vrabel feels about him. And then if you, as you do, you're at every game, you watch him play. He's such an impactful player for someone, as you mentioned, that doesn't have this pedigree or isn't thought of like that from a national level. But if you watch him on a week in, week out basis, he really is an impact player for them. But that one guy, you should be able to replicate 80% of him, 85% of him with what you have. And they haven't been able to do that. And I think, look, some of their issues at corner have shown up. But even I'll go back to 2 weeks ago when we were in Philly, like it was still a game in the first half. And we know what the final score ended up. But in the first half, they were kind of right there with them. It was taking a lot to be right there with them, but they were right there with them. And to me, I was like, oh, this is typical Titans. They're just sort of hanging around, hoping you make a mistake. Well, then Philly doesn't make a mistake, starts to make some plays, and then it just, boom, the whole thing imploded. And I think you kind of saw that again last week. They start making mistakes, and it's like they couldn't reel it back in. And that is, again, atypical of a Vrabel coach team.
Mike Giardi of the NFL Network here with us on 104.5 The Zone. So as you look at the playoff standings right now, Mike, the way that the Ravens keep finding ways to win despite all the different injury issues that they also have, they are very much reminiscent of, both of these teams in 2 straight years, Mike, they have used, again, 80 players in a season the Tennessee Titans have, and the Ravens have to be right there on pace with a lot of critically important players. Both quarterbacks have missed time, but it's not like any of them. It's kind of jarring to say, but the Chiefs might be the best and healthiest team right now.
Yeah, I was looking at the standings yesterday because I was doing conversation with about the Jets. And so the Jets right now would be the 9th team, so they're not even in the playoffs. I think you could argue that the Chargers at 8, the Jets at 9, and even the way Jacksonville is playing, that those 3 teams are probably playing better than Tennessee, better than Miami. I mean, I won't go into the Patriots thing again, but that's just not a very good football team. So, like, there's some teams on the outside looking in that are better than some of the teams that are in there. Baltimore, I thought that first month, the way Lamar was playing, like they were going to be a real threat. And then just when you thought they were peaking, Lamar gets hurt. And now it's been a scratch and claw to kind of get a couple wins here. Anthony Brown might be their starter this week. He didn't throw a ball, I think, past 10 yards in the last game. Can they continue to win with defense and a semi-okay running game? I mean, it seems to come and go. I don't know. To me, what we've seen is a separation of the top 3 teams in the conference from everything below it. And I have a hard time right now looking at anybody other than, dare I say, the Jets, who aren't even in right now, as a team that I would be afraid to play once I got to the postseason, just based on December 14th, how teams are playing right now on December 14th.
Where were you this past weekend?
Jets, Bills.
Okay, so why Zach Wilson's not even active for these games? What the hell is happening there?
Yeah, so he will be this week. He will elevate past Joe Flacco. They still think Mike White's going to play. The ribs, he took some hellacious shots in that game, had to be transported to the hospital just for precaution. They didn't want to get him on a plane if he had some internal stuff going on, but he was fine. They let him fly home. That's odd. I think that team is clearly Mike White's now. I think the way they talked about him after the game was just a continuation of what it's been for the last 3 weeks. When they speak of Mike White, they speak of him with almost a reverence versus how they feel about Zach. And it's sort of, I wondered at the point if it was anybody but Zach, but I think that White has shown them and showed them on Sunday a level of toughness. I mean, if you saw the hit that he took from Milano and how long he was down, and then the slow walk off the field, couldn't pick up his head, slow walk all the way to the locker room, couldn't pick up his head, and then to come back out. And as he's warming up to try to convince them that he can go back in, he is literally grimacing in pain with every throw, but he convinced them to go back in. And then he made some throws, from one hash to the far sideline. And you're like, holy crap, so he's given him something. He's given him some life and some energy. And I think they are riding with him now. I think it's his team. And I think unless he completely falls off here in the final 5 weeks, I think he's the starting quarterback going into next year as well.
Well, and that's the thing. Like, I was talking to some people much smarter about football than I am about Mike White, and like watching him, I cannot help. Like, I know what I associate him with, which is low round draft pick, right? We know the pedigree here just from up the road during his college career, and you look at him though, and like, he displays traits of a functional NFL starting quarterback. And I don't know if I'm like tricking myself into it because I watched a half of football where Zach Wilson did get 2 yards, but nothing more in an entire half of football. And then trying to talk myself into Mike White as a result of that as the thing that you look at it next to. But I mean, he seems to be a functioning starting quarterback in this league.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely correct. And I think what they wanted from that position and what they even talked about in the spring and summer with Zach was like, you don't have to be Superman. You just have to be good enough, right? Make some plays, eliminate the bad plays, keep us in good position, because we feel like we have a very good defense, which I think it's, I don't know what the metrics are and all these different things you look at, but I know that I've seen them in person a bunch of times, and they're a top 5 defense to me. They have everything that you want from the defensive line, the rotation they have up there, dominating players like Quinnen Williams, CJ Mosley still playing at a high level at linebacker. And then, of course, we know about their 2 corners and what they're getting from their defensive backfield. So it really is a get us to 20. If you can get us to 20, we think our defense is good enough to hold teams under 20. And he's done a very nice job of that. Even the game they lost to the Vikings, where, they were in the red zone, I think 6 times. So they had a red zone issue that game, which they obviously have to clean up, but like, they were there. They should have won that football game. And I think that's a team that probably looks at 3 games this year, both games to the Patriots, and then that one against the Vikings, and says, those should have been 3 more wins, and that's what, like I said, I think they're the 4th best team in the conference right now. And then when you think, and you look at the NFC, does that make them the 7th best team in the league? Like, Start to think about it. I think they could be. And again, it's December, so we'll see. I mean, they don't even get into the postseason, but yeah, they're a dangerous team.
Are you on TV today?
Today, I'm off today. Then I am off back to Buffalo, where I'm likely going to get trapped for the weekend with that crazy lake effect snowstorm that's coming for the game on Saturday. Could be fun for all of you at home watching the game. I don't know how fun it's going to be being in it, trying to do TV. I think my first hit, by the way, is in the they have an RV lot. And I think my first hit is at like noon in the RV lot. So, it's
who did you piss off? Like,
that's a great question. You know what, Buck? It's a great question. I've been asking it to myself a lot here in the last 24 hours. I'm trying to mentally put myself in a place where I'm going to be able to handle it. But we'll see. We'll see. They have horses out there too, by the way. It's like it's a thing. I was doing a live shot once, and a horse came right behind me. And then I turned around and I might have pooped my pants a little bit, because you're not expecting to see a horse within a foot of your face, but there it was.
We'll keep you updated on the weather in Los Angeles.
You know what?
That's supposed to be your buddy, Giardi. He just knifed you in the side. Normally, it's
no.
me.
I mean,
Your
look,
boy just
I
took you
would
out.
I would be shaking my ass at you guys too if I was in LA. And I think it's part of the problem too. Is like, so our main office, they're in LA. Like it was 55 degrees the other day. They got heaters for the Dolphins at 55 degrees.
Sweater weather.
Yeah. And meanwhile, I'm going to be like the little brother from Christmas Story. You won't be able, my arms. I can't move my arms. That's going to be me.
I hope it's awful, and I love you very much for coming on here on your off day.
I hate you with the passion of 7 sons.
You know what?
I don't even know if that's a thing, but if it is, then I just made it one.
I'll have all 7 in Los Angeles while you're freezing your ass off in Buffalo. Enjoy. Mike Giardi, the NFL Network. See you, buddy.
Yeah.
Oh, he's the best. Oh, goodness. 615-737-1045. We will do Lucas's SEC observations coming up next. SEC observations. We've got a few. Transfer portal continuing to remain active. And college basketball. Little hoops last night. The Alabama-Memphis game was really fun for those of us who are starting to turn our attention in that direction. I'll start really, really homing in.
No, is it not honing?
No, I have had so many damn arguments in the press box about this because we did a whole show where I kept coming back to honing in.
It's honing.
No, apparently it is not. It is homing, like a homing beacon.
It cannot be homing with an M.
I said the exact same thing. I looked it up. I got attacked by a bunch of angry old white writers in the press box in Green Bay because I was saying honing instead of homing.
It's honing with an N.
I hope you're right.
I'm putting it to a poll. Is it homing or honing?
Oh, well, that can't be. The grammatical corrections cannot be trusted to Twitter. You cannot do that until we have an edit button.
The Oxford definition of hone is to smooth and sharpen a blade or to refine or perfect something over a period of time. So I think when you're honing in on something, what was it? Homing?
Homing. If you are like homing in on something, if you're focusing in on something, it is to home in on something. I hope you're right because I got berated.
This would just rock my whole universe.
That's what I'm saying.
If I've been saying that wrong.
I'm 29 years old. I've been saying it my entire life that way. Hopefully, maybe somebody out there in the world, 615-737-1045 can inform us. In the meantime, do we have...
Let's talk about SEC, baby. Let's talk about the SEC. Let's talk about Nick Saban and Josh Heupel in the SEC. Let's talk about SEC, baby. Let's talk about the SEC. Let's talk about Brian Kelly and Greg Sankey in the SEC. Let's talk about SEC.
The SEC observations on this December 14th, 2022. We will start, because there's a few things to get to here, with the transfer portal. And one school that had an incredibly strong finish to the 2022 season that is being raided by the transfer portal, whose roster is being ravaged by the transfer portal, and that is the South Carolina Gamecocks. Because as you look at the South Carolina transfer portal page on 24/7 Sports, it is decorated with players that played a big role this season for the Gamecocks, most notably Jaheim Bell, the tight end who had a massive game against Tennessee, has entered the portal, and he's considered one of the top tight ends available at the moment. Marshawn Lloyd, a former four-star running back who has had injuries plague his career a little bit at South Carolina, he is in the portal. Austin Stogner, the tight end that came over from Oklahoma with Spencer Rattler, entered the portal and is now back with Oklahoma. They've got an offensive lineman in there. So this is going to be a challenge for schools like South Carolina that, in the pre-portal era, although I guess you could argue that the portal is what helped them have that success late in the year with Spencer Rattler as their quarterback. But they're going to have to deal with this year in and year out. They build up momentum, 2 back-to-back top 10 wins at the end of the year. And just like that, one of the guys in Jaheim Bell that played one of the biggest roles in getting them to that point at 8-4 is not going to be with them next season. And he's a really fascinating tight end product and tight end prospect for the NFL next year.
That is, I think, the most intriguing part of this is like how these respective programs are viewed by the players who have had success with them, right? Because no one would dispute, as you just laid it out, those players contributed to the success of that football team down the stretch, made meaningful plays, and brought them to a point of relevancy. But I'm curious to know what they're seeing in that program where they think there's a ceiling to what you can do, whether it's just by nature of competing in the SEC, and the SEC East is better than it has been. I guess with Kentucky didn't have a good year, so it's about holding serve. Georgia's still at the top of everything, and Tennessee's obviously made some strides, but for the most part, it's still those the other couple kind of cannibalizing themselves down the stretch. So Florida State obviously has had a successful season.
That's where Jaheim Bell is headed, by the
way. That's. Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you had mentioned.
No,
that.
Yeah, I had mentioned. That's my fault. He is going to Florida State.
Okay, yes. That I'm looking at the transfer portal right now for this 2023 class, and Jaheim Bell is planning to go to Florida State at this point. Now, obviously, Florida State did have a unexpectedly successful year Is that fair?
I don't think it was that unexpected.
I
think it was expected of Mike Norvell to take a step forward this season, and he did.
And there were signs that was happening in 2021 down the stretch, despite the lack of success that they were having. Like, people recognized that the players were still competing for Mike Norvell despite the less than ideal results at the end of the previous season. So I'd be curious. Do you think that Florida State next season has I guess theoretically they could have a higher season than South Carolina in the SEC?
Yeah, oh, absolutely. Yeah, they should take a step forward. Jordan Travis back at quarterback. Florida State's making noise in the recruiting trail. All three Florida schools in Florida State, Miami, and Florida are dueling it out for a lot of the same prospects right now in recruiting, which is very interesting. Speaking of recruiting, Alabama, the rich get richer. The number 1 class in the 2023 cycle adds the number 10 overall recruit in the 2023 cycle. 5-star edge rusher Keon Keeley commits to Alabama. They strengthen their lead atop the recruiting rankings. And in college basketball, it's been a strong week, a strong start to the season for the SEC. There are 2 top 6 SEC teams in the AP poll. Neither of them are Kentucky. For the first time in the Nick Saban era.
I love that as just a jab at Kentucky.
They are 1 spot ahead of your Hoosiers. They're the number 13 team in the country. Indiana number 14 after taking a beating last week.
God, get them out of my life. What did I do?
For the first time in the Saban era, Alabama basketball is ranked higher than Alabama football. Tennessee with a gut check win.
That is an SEC observation, my friend.
Tennessee with a gut check win against number 13 Maryland in New York on Sunday. If you got home from the Titans game, you might have caught the second half of that one. They were up 21 at one point. Maryland surges back, and the Vols hang on to win. And it seems like, despite also being down a bunch of guys, Josiah Jordan-James has been dealing with stuff all year. Jonas Adu was out on Sunday. Seems like that loss Tennessee took to Colorado over here at Bridgestone Arena might have been the best thing to happen to this team because they're playing really good basketball since then. They haven't lost since then. It's their only loss of the year, and they've knocked off the defending champion Kansas Jayhawks to win the battle for Atlantis. They've knocked off USC. They've knocked off Maryland, and they'll have another shot at a top 10 win against Arizona on Saturday, which would complete a very impressive non-conference resume for the Vols.
I hope Arizona is as good as they looked against my basketball team on Saturday. They look legit, and Indiana, I think, is a bit fraudy because that North Carolina win looks worse and worse every day, even though they had a resounding win over some scrub team last night. I had forgotten about that Colorado loss because it was on the same day as the Titans game.
It was at the exact same time as the Titans game.
It was a weird timing.
Yeah, it was. It was an ugly loss, but they've bounced back from it. Alabama has beaten 2 number 1 teams.
Yeah.
A crazy 4 overtime win against UNC a couple weeks ago. They beat Houston the other day. They beat Memphis just last night. Mississippi State is coming on strong right now. Auburn is ranked at the moment. Arkansas has a really good team. It's a good start to the season for SEC basketball.
Those are the SEC observations. We are going to pivot our attention to the dumbest thing in sports. That's coming up next. Mike Vrabel will speak at 11:45. Ryan Tannehill as well in the noon hour. You'll hear from both later on in the show. I'm Buck Rising. It's 104.5 The Zone.
It is 11:02. Good morning from the Superbook.com sports desk. I'm Lucas Panzica. The Titans made moves on Tuesday to sign quarterback Kevin Hogan to the practice squad. Hogan spent some time with the team in 2021. Titans also signed outside linebacker Zach McLeod and offensive lineman Jordan Ruse to the practice squad. Head coach Mike Vrabel will speak with media at 11:45. Quarterback Ryan Tannehill will do so shortly thereafter. You can hear both of those live right here on 104.5 The Zone. The Nashville Predators fell to the Edmonton Oilers last night, 6-3, the final in Bridgestone Arena. That marks 4 straight losses for the Preds. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once in your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Second hour is upon us. Welcome in. Welcome back. If you've been spending some time with us so far, we're very happy to have you here. You can hang out with us however you like. 615-737-1045. That's the phone number if you want to jump in on the Zone TV chat. It's available via Facebook Live, Twitter, YouTube, and Twitch. You're going to need that phone number, though, because as is the custom, each and every Wednesday at about this time, we like to go through to provide a little levity and to nominate the dumbest thing in sports this week. Go.
Let's be honest. You've already seen something this week that made you say,
What the is this?
That's bullshit.
What the hell? Give me some more now.
something so mind-numbingly idiotic that you just want to get it off your chest.
Dumber than a second coat of paint.
Some idiot.
You are really dumb. For real.
It's the dumbest thing in sports this week on the Buck Rising Show.
It is presented by Painter Ready Murfreesboro. Call for a quote, 615-PAINTER or www.painterreadymurfreesboro.com. So what's the dumbest thing in sports this week? I imagine you have quite a few things to choose from. But I'm going to go ahead and start the bidding here. Okay, so at the beginning of the season and in much of the offseason, a lot of the conversation around the Cleveland Browns directly revolved around their quarterback and predatory behavior that saw him receive an 11-game suspension. So Deshaun Watson is now officially back in the lineup, and he's not taking questions about anything but football at his media availability, nor should his lawyers advise him to do anything but. So let's talk about the football for Deshaun Watson as of late. Did you watch this game against the Cincinnati Bengals this weekend for the Cleveland Browns?
Nope, same time as the Titans game, so I was monitoring it.
Sure. So I went back because I'm always looking for games to talk about with Greg if we, exhaust whatever we've got to break down between the Titans and whomever their opponent is or was the previous week.
Greg who?
Cosell.
For what podcast?
The Install. Available wherever you get your podcast. Thanks, bud. So I peeked in at what's been happening with the Browns as of late. He is struggling mightily, Deshaun Watson is. He's got 1 touchdown to 2 interceptions in these 2 games. He's completed 59.4% of his passes for 407 yards and a rating of just north of 70. The longest pass completion he has is 28 yards. They beat the Texans in his return, not by nature of his ability, but by special teams and defense.
All 3 touchdowns, special teams and defense in Houston.
Correct. He had a touchdown and a pick against the Cincinnati Bengals in a 13-point loss in which he was having to chase most of the game and got a bunch of yards in garbage time. Deshaun Watson is worth $230 million on his current contract, minus the $5 million that he was fined as a part of the suspension that he did receive. My dumbest thing in sports is giving Deshaun Watson any kind of a grace period for his lack of performance when I'm watching Baker Mayfield 2 hours basically off a plane ride come in and lead a 98-yard touchdown drive, and Brock Purdy, Mr. Irrelevant, the last pick in the draft, go out there and just smoke the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Get the bleep out of here with Deshaun Watson. Needs time to warm up. which is some of the analysis that I've seen around NFL, smart NFL people this week. That may be all well and good, but like, don't show me Brock Purdy and Baker Mayfield on the one hand, and then give me the $230 million problematic quarterback on the other and be like, that guy needs a little more grace. Bleep out of here. Deshaun Watson is my dumbest thing in sports this week.
On Call Your Shot, the segment we do to close out the show on Blaine and Mickey every Friday, my prediction was Watson will go another week without a touchdown pass. And it was close.
You got close.
Yeah, had a second half touch, I think, to David Njoku in that game. Blaine has talked about it a lot, though. The guy hasn't played competitive football in 2 years.
I understand that.
And I know Brock Purdy's a rookie, and it's very impressive what Brock Purdy has done since coming in. But he has played competitive football, as has Baker Mayfield. Maybe not well, but the money tag to Deshaun Watson does make it to where don't give a bleep about your excuses.
Like an anchor around his neck for the rest of time.
Yep. And Russell Wilson, for that matter.
Yeah. What's your dumbest thing in sports?
My dumbest thing in sports is the stipulations that it takes to get into the College Football Hall of Fame. Because I think you'd be hard-pressed to find someone that does not agree that the late, great Mike Leach should be a College Football Hall of Famer. What Mike has done in innovating the game on the offensive side of the ball, what Mike has done in elevating two different programs to their greatest heights as the head coach, Texas Tech, Washington State, the brightest spots in those programs' histories are with Mike Leach as the head coach, and it's horrible that we'll never be able to know what he would have done in that sense at Mississippi State. He was only in year 3. They did get better with every passing year. But Mike Leach's winning percentage amounts to 59.6%. To get into the College Football Hall of Fame, you need a winning percentage of a minimum 60%. I think that is a dumb stipulation to begin with. Because of the way expectations are framed.
I get it in principle,
for different college football programs. Like winning 60% of your games is a lot more impressive at Washington State than it is at Florida.
Well, and it doesn't account for like a coach's early career where they're at a program where they've done some things, but maybe their record isn't the best, right? But they've shown enough to warrant the next job at which they succeed at a higher level, but those games those games at their first stop are going to be held against them as far as their win percentage.
It takes context out of the conversation.
Yeah, I don't like that as a qualification.
And if you look at all the context involving Mike Leach and what he did at Texas Tech and what he did at Washington State, what he started to do at Mississippi State, and before all of that, under Hal Mumme at Kentucky and at Oklahoma as an assistant there, Mike Leach absolutely deserves to be in the College Football Hall of Fame. And college football is a sport where so much off the field is magnified. The quirkiness, the fun, the wild part of college football, a lot of it is in the personalities of it. And I also think that should be taken into account. The unique personality that he was at the forefront of college football, Mike Leach, should absolutely be a College Football Hall of Famer, and 0.4 percentage points, leaving him out would be egregious.
So it's like you're going to your college professor just begging him to round up for the sake of, but I really, no, but obviously this is a different conversation. You're right, of course. Mike Leach should be a College Football Hall of Famer. And you're not just doing that posthumously. Like, there is enough impact, as Lucas said, at different programs to justify that, and enough of a ripple effect around Mike Leach from both where he came from, under which coaches, and which coaches that he provided opportunities for that went on to be great. 615-737-1045 is how you tell us what the dumbest thing in sports is this week. Start with Eric this morning. Hey, Eric.
Hey, guys, my dumbest thing in sports is all these people who are giving Deion Sanders a hard time for leaving Jackson State to go to Colorado. I have absolutely no problem with him doing it. So here's the thing that really bothers me about that. So you want more black coaches in a Power 5 conferences, Power 5 schools to be hired, but you criticize him and call him a sellout for leaving HBCU school. You can't have it both ways. I mean, he can't win. That's just bad. And here's another report I heard last week, guys, is the fact that there was reports that Deion Sanders, Jackson State didn't live up to a lot of the promises they made to him. He had to pay a lot of money out of his own pocket for, like, recruiting trips, taking care of their facilities at Jackson State, and to take care of the players. That's bad if that's true. So that's my dumbest thing in sports. Guys, y'all take care and have a great rest of the day.
Thank you very much, Eric. It's been tough. I mean, now Deion is not fazed, it seems, by that kind of criticism, right? Like, Deion Doesn't Dion have like a rap song where it's all about the money, baby? Like it's, you got a much bigger payday at Colorado State, which by the way has said that they're going to raise money once Dion's here, we'll raise the money to pay Dion the $5 million a year that they are doing to give. I mean, Colorado, you could argue that Colorado has been the most relevant college football program in the news cycle this past week.
You could make that argument. Yeah.
By nature of merely his presence.
Yeah, for a program that has not had success in many years.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I mean, what 15 years? Like, legitimately 15 years since they've been since they've had any kind of juice to them, any kind of teeth, right? Colorado, yes, they will await success on the field, and ultimately that will deem their relevancy. But they hired the person who's in the Aflac commercials alongside Nick Saban that was previously at Jackson State. It is not my place to criticize somebody for leaving an HBCU to go to Colorado. I don't think it's my position to do so, nor would I, by the way, but I understand why their feelings are hurt by it a little bit, because you think that if you talk yourself into this, that this guy is going to come to an HBCU, he's going to elevate the program as he did quantifiably. They had game day at Jackson State this year, for God's sakes. That matters a great deal. And he takes the players who he brought with him to Jackson State. A lot of them are going to follow him to Colorado. I'm bringing my luggage and it's Louis, right? So jump in that transfer portal now, the whole bit. You can't, as Eric laid it out, there are so few black college football coaches, period. I mean, in the NFL, the percentage gets even lower. Just by
Head
nature
coaches.
Of them, but yes, head coaches, by nature of how many fewer jobs there are at the professional level as well, it gets even smaller. So to fault a person from taking advantage of the opportunity that he did earn at Jackson State to go next to Colorado and wherever else it may take him, by nature of capitalizing on the current marketplace of college football, I find the argument against Deion Sanders doing what he did very, very difficult.
I'm with you. Because the whole point was to elevate the status of HBCUs, right? Financially also, which he did in donating, I can't remember what the percentage was of his salary to facilities to improve Jackson State's football program. So, yeah, Colorado, by the way, has had one winning season since 2005. And it was a little 10-win. They won 10 games very randomly in 2016 under Mike McIntyre, who's now at FIU. And other than that, they have not had a winning season since 2005.
We will continue with the dumbest thing in sports this week. Your phone call, 615-737-1045. We're also going to get into a discussion about who this team needs back more, Danico Autry or Traylon Burks. I'm Buck Rising. It's 1045 The Zone.
The Buck Rising Show is powered by Spring Hill Heating and Cooling. Visit springhillac.com.
So we have a little bit of breaking Titans news. The team has just designated.
Breaking Titans news on 104.5 The Zone.
Go ahead.
Do you think people are on edge now since the John Robinson news whenever they hear that sounder? Well, more on edge?
No, I think they're too busy laughing in my face, braying with laughter in my face as you railroad me with the sound as I try to deliver the news to people.
Linebacker Zach Cunningham designated to return off of injured reserve. And also, they signed running back Jonathan Ward to the practice squad.
Okay, thank you so much for your great reporting.
Yes, broken by me, yes. Per the team.
I never see a smile as big on your face as when you just completely just run me over with that stuff. Breaks my heart. I don't know what I did to you, bud. Yeah, Zach Cunningham's back. That means 2 spots to bring back players for the rest of the year. It is week 15. There are more football games to be played, more potential injuries that could come down the line. Now, there's only so many games left before the end of the regular season. Does the IR rule apply to playoff games?
Good question.
I don't know the answer to that question. I would think that it does, but I don't know that for certain.
Well, we know that if a player is sent to IR and brought back, then that's two of those spots get taken away, right?
Yeah.
Like Molden's already come back off IR. He's back on IR. If they were to bring him back off, then that still would kind of tick another box.
Yeah.
So do you have it available readily on who is on injured reserve, if we could kind of refresh?
Sure.
Now that we know that they can only bring back 2 more?
It doesn't take but a second for me to pull that up. So Zach Cunningham back and a practice squad running back, or a running back signed to the practice squad. Cunningham has missed a considerable amount of time, and the Titans had one of their highest missed tackle percentage games last week. Now, by the way, that's not something that Zach Cunningham has been terribly helpful with when he has been available to this team. He's not had a good season, especially now that his price tag is substantially more. But as you look at the injured reserve list, remember 2 spots remain for the players, or rather for players to be brought back. Chance Campbell, Trenton Cannon, Caleb Farley, Deshaun Hand, Cody Hollister, Chris Jackson, Lonnie Johnson, Jamarco Jones, Harold Landry, Taylor Lewan, David Long Jr., Elijah Molden, A.J. Moore, and Kyle Phillips.
Okay, so let's go ahead and cross out the guys that we know are out for the year.
A.J. Moore, Taylor Lewan, Harold Landry, Jamarco Jones. I don't know about Lonnie.
Do we know that Jones is done for the season?
Yeah, it was like a torn bicep situation.
Oh, that's right. No. Are you sure you're not thinking of Hand?
No, I know Hand had a similar injury. I think they might have the same injury.
Okay.
I don't remember exactly, but I believe Jamarco Jones is done for the foreseeable future, and likely as a Titan because woof. So I'm going to count Jamarco Jones. Don't know about Lonnie Johnson or Chris Jackson, Hollister either. Deshaun Hand, Caleb Farley, Trenton Cannon, and Chance Campbell has been shut down for a considerable amount of time.
Yeah, we know Cannon's done.
So let's say 8. Let's say 8 players of the current available or the current IR list that are done for the year, which would leave us with Lonnie Johnson, David Long, Elijah Molden, Kyle Phillips, Chris Jackson, Cody Hollister. Yeah.
That's tough. That's tough when you have Elijah Molden, David Long, and Kyle Phillips all sitting there knowing that there's no way you can get all 3 back on the team this season, or back on the active roster, I should say.
Did you included Cody Hollister in that list?
No, I said Phillips, Molden, and Long.
Oh, well, I bet Cody Hollister gets one of those spots. I'll bet you any amount of money that Cody Hollister. What do you? How frisky you feeling back there, bud? I bet you any amount of money that Cody Hollister is going to use one of these 2, and people are going to poop themselves. Like, they will lose their minds. I want it to happen just for the sake of outrage. It would be hilarious to me. Respectfully to Cody Hollister.
Well, what's your reasoning on that? Just another blocking wide receiver?
They love him. They love him. They can't get him out of lineup. The only thing that got him out of a lineup is the IR stint. Otherwise, Cody Hollister plays, man. Now, whether he's good or bad or indifferent, whatever, he plays. Oof. We'll see what happens there. Meanwhile, dumbest thing in sports this week, 615-737-1045. Mikey's in Lebanon. He's been waiting patiently. Hey, Mikey. Hey, Mikey.
Yeah, what's up, Buck?
What you got for me, buddy?
Yeah, so over the weekend there was a Georgia State Championship football game, high school, and this ref came in on the final play of the game. He ruled a touchdown, and the running back got stuck on the 1-yard line. There's a whole yard.
Oh, no.
There's an outrage all over social media, and people are, declaring that they should, override it and everything else. And so that's my dumbest thing in sports this week.
Yeah, it was really bad. I'm trying to remember the schools that were involved, but I mean, you're talking a good yard and a half short of the goal line, and the line judge comes in strong, confident, with both hands in the air, calling a touchdown, calling a touchdown when it was very, very clearly a goal line stop.
Sandy Creek won the Georgia Class 3A high school football championship over Cedar Grove on Saturday after the referees made what appeared to be an egregiously poor ruling, as Sandy Creek scored a go-ahead, quote-unquote, touchdown in the final minute of the game, despite the ball carrier being well short of the line. That courtesy of CBS Sports. Wow.
Yeah, like I'm telling you, it wasn't even close.
And it's not like they have a replay for this stuff. I mean, well, I don't know. We had replay, I feel like, in high school.
Did you?
They had the Jumbotron, yeah. Because we did it at the Colts Stadium, and they had all the bells and whistles.
Yeah, but there's no review process.
No. That's true.
Right. Yeah.
So yes, you can see that the call was egregiously blown, but there is no review for that.
Which is what college
they don't put their heads under the hoods.
Yeah. Which is what college football was for the longest time. That every game was televised. There were jumbotrons. You could see what happened, but there was no video review.
Damn. Cheeseburger is next. What's up, Cheeseburger?
What's going on, Buck? How you doing today?
Good, buddy. Hope you are too.
I'm doing good too, man. I just want to say I think the dumbest thing in sports, I think it's for the fans that go to NBA games, like the fan last night that said something to Draymond Green. Fans just need to chill out. The NBA players are there making their money just like the NFL players are. Just chill out, fans. You're there to enjoy the game. Don't do anything stupid. Come on now, fans in the NBA that go to the games. Come on now. Just chill out. And for the Titans, I think we're missing Nico Autry. He's a huge miss right now. I wish we could get him back. But, hey, Titans fans, let's relax. We're going to go win some games here, these last few games of the season. We're going to get in the playoffs. And then the Titans in the playoffs going to start taking the other teams out one by one. Let's go, baby. It's the Buck Rising show all day, every day. Yeah, Buck Rising. Buck ain't got no roof. Car ain't got no roof. Buck Rising. Tennessee Titans, tighten up, baby. Let's go. Tighten up. To Tennessee Titans all day, every day. Mike Vrabel is the man of the year. Hey, Buck, I want you to play that song for Mike Vrabel and tell him I'll come in there and sing a rap song for a game.
Spitting. Look at you, Cheeseburger. I love you, baby. That was brilliant. Well done. Cheeseburger gets a different kind of music than everybody else. Everybody else gets the Oscars music. Cheeseburger. Lucas back there dropping beats. Can we cut that? And every time we bring him up, I wanted to see how long he would keep going. There's something to be said for just being able to, I mean, I know it's, a lot of times just kind of throwing names at us like Robert does with his, let's talk about SEC or let's talk about SEC, baby.
Right.
That's what it is.
Right.
SEC, baby.
Surprised Cheeseburger didn't come in hot with something about his Florida State Seminoles.
He usually does.
Yeah.
Well, we gave him enough runway.
We did.
Yeah, don't throw things at athletes. Behave yourself when you're at these games. The whole idea of fan entitlement, that the purchase of a ticket gives you the right to, you can verbally accost players because they're used to that, right? These guys live very, very public lives. They're very, very used to public criticism. But it does tend to, there's a fine line, but you gotta be cognizant of that. Oh, Paul and Franklin? I haven't heard Paul and Franklin's dulcet tones on our airwaves in too long. Paul, what you got?
Buck, my friend, how you doing, Buck?
I'm better now.
Good to see you, man. Hope you had a happy Thanksgiving and a Merry, Merry Christmas coming up. Buck, I got to take exception to one of your callers yesterday. I was driving along and about choked on my hamburger when he said something. I had to address this. He said, this gentleman said that that you ain't a fan if you criticize the Titans. Don't criticize them. Don't criticize them. That's what he said yesterday. And I took exception to that, Buck. Let me tell you something. Criticizing is part of life, brother. That's part of life. I can criticize my job if I don't perform like I need to do, and I'm sure that you do and everybody else in the world does, brother. These guys get on that field and they make millions and millions of dollars a year. They make more money in 1 year than I make my lifetime. So a little criticism is warranted when you're not playing up par. And that not only goes for the team, for the players, that goes for the coach. Now, you know, Buck, I've called this show many times, brother, and my blood runneth orange and it runs two-tone blue. And I love them to death. I was born in Tennessee. I was raised in Tennessee. I will die and be buried in Tennessee. I am a Tennessean. And when they don't perform up to their level that they should, the Titans, I have the right to criticize them because I've spent a lot of money on them old Titans over the years. And I believe that I have a right as a fan to criticize the team when it's warranted. If you never criticize and everything is wine and roses all the time, but nothing ever gets accomplished, Buck, then nothing ever gets fixed. And that's my criticism. That ain't my criticism. That's my comment, brother. God bless you, man, and it's good to hear that you're doing good. God bless you, brother.
Oh, it always makes me happy to have Paul and Franklin. What a gem. He didn't call us enough, Paul.
Paul was preaching there.
Well, he does that. That's why, and I don't want to push the envelope, right? It's like Sue Ann. Anytime Sue Ann calls us, she's batting 1,000. The woman does not miss. She is an assassin when she pops on the line. Paul and Franklin, also one of our callers, one of our regular callers that has an exorbitantly high hit rate as far as his calls are concerned. Now a couple of them look a little less. What's the word I'm looking for? Impactful, since his Vols kind of fell off a little bit because he was bringing the heat during the height of Vol mania. But his point is well taken. We had some calls about this yesterday, and we didn't have the opportunity to get to him. I don't know if we were backed up against Mike Vrabel's press conference or what happened. It was Monday, and we had a caller call in and say, "Well, if you're critical of the team, then you're not a true fan of the team. Like, you ride and die with your allegiances, and if you throw yourself out or you start to turn tail or start to nitpick or whatever at signs of adversity, which of course this team is now currently dealing with a 3-game losing streak, then you're not a real fan." That was a call that we got on Monday after they lost by 14 points to the Jags, who they have not allowed to win at home since 2013. I'm not the best advocate for this, right? Because like Lucas is breaking down borderline in tears when Brazil scores a goal in the World Cup round of 16, and I'm looking at him like, what the hell is wrong with you? Why are you seizing on the ground? Like it's a two America's sports fan type situation. And I understand, that people are very, very passionate about their allegiances, and they're passionate. They invest time and energy and financial means, obviously, to participate in what it is that their favorite teams are doing. Not just games, but everything else that comes along with being a fan of a sports team. But yeah, if they suck, you can ask why. You're more than entitled to ask why. And if you want to criticize them, you are more than entitled to criticize them. I've never understood that like left brain fan mindset that says, well, to criticize the team while it's down removes you from being a quote unquote true fan. What does that even mean? Like, what is the difference between a true fan and a regular fan other than you both like sports? That's never been, I don't know. Do you know people like that in your life? Because I know people who blindly defend everything about their sports teams, and they drive me crazy because you can't have a conversation with them.
Yeah.
You can't have a conversation with them at all. And maybe I don't know if it's just if I've got bad perspective on this and I'm being unrealistic with my expectations for how people are fans of their team. I'm not interested in telling people how to be fans of their team. Do whatever you want. But to yell at other people about how they behave around their favorite teams, I don't get for what? What are you policing?
Yeah, people should hold their teams to a standard, I think. I think people should hold teams to the standard that the team holds itself to.
Yeah.
right?
That's fair.
Clearly, the Titans are holding themselves to a Super Bowl standard. I think Amy Adams Strunk told us that.
Well, yes, she told us that she was unhappy with the track that they were on and that she didn't feel the need to wait around for a decision. And yes, ultimately the goal is Super Bowl.
Yeah, and whether or not it works out is
TBD.
a whole other thing that we don't know yet. But there's no question that the motive behind that move, I don't think this is going to win us a Super Bowl.
Mike Vrabel is going to speak to the media. Will carry his press conference, the football team on the practice field for the first week as they get ready for the Los Angeles Chargers. So the head coach speaks to you next right here on 104.5 The Zone. Nagging. the horizon, a couple of days from now, Lucas and I are going to fly out to Los Angeles. We're going to do the show from L.A. on Monday, given the travel time, and we'll head back after that. We'll see what happens between these two teams in a critical AFC contest. Mike Vrabel's going to be at the podium in just about a minute. We'll carry that press conference live for you. We'll see what updates are to be had from the head coach about potentially seeing some players back. Traylon Burks, obviously, a topic of conversation. Danico Autry, his status, and what a reasonable, well, it could be asked. I don't know if Vrabel would answer this, but whether they can expect Zach Cunningham to provide critical reinforcements without David Long available at this point. 615-737-1045 is how you join the conversation. We're going to talk some more about Autry and Burks specifically, the importance basically of those two players to the respective sides of the ball, and what is not being accomplished in their absence. By the way, Kevin Byard is going to join us on the radio show tomorrow, Titans All-Pro Safety, and we'll catch up with KB, get his thoughts on the matter, and see what this week has been like now on their first 3-game losing streak since 2018. Now, as far as the Chargers go, Vrabel is going to be pretty complimentary of them, I imagine. So, without further ado, let's hear from the head coach.
Until it warms up and melts and it's brown and
then it looks like this.
asphalt in it and everything else.
Mike, your team has done it. Oh. He was standing there. I wasn't sure. Got them all arranged?
Yeah.
Mike, your team has done a good job of starting games, going down, getting touchdowns. What has to start happening to get that to translate into more scoring in the second half after you come out of the locker room?
Well, all the fundamentals that we talk about. I think that, understanding that we're just going to have to make sure that we get into drives. Just unfortunately, recently, the case has been just some self-inflicted wounds. And, I thought we answered, again, we've been through this. I thought we answered well last week. Unfortunate, that we weren't able to answer when our defense needed us. Going back to the fundamentals, taking care of the football, really just striving to keep this rhythm and the flow that's been there, at times. And, again, not having this roller coaster of having a good drive or then doing something, that affects that, and then really letting it affect the rest of the game. They're going to make some plays. They're going to get some stops. We have to go right back out whenever we get the ball and get back and find that rhythm.
How does Eckler's ability to catch passes sideline to sideline stress your defense?
It's just, they do a lot with him, and he's just an ultimate outlet. It seems like when he needs to sit down in the zone, he's sitting down. When he needs to continue to run, he continues to stay on the move. The quarterback knows where he is. They have a lot that's designed for him, but they are also a lot that is just, the relief and the outlet and the check down. And, he does a fantastic job with the plays that are designed for him, as well as the ones that, get to him after the quarterback's progressed.
How much does their size and strength at the receiver position, even tight end, challenge guys in the secondary?
Well, I think they have some guys with different skill sets, and certainly they do have a stature. I think obviously with Williams, Keenan Allen, Palmer, Carter's, a guy that can kind of, play a lot of different roles. He's not just a gadget guy, a guy that runs, multitude of routes. It seems like, Everett's been factoring and really gaining a lot of confidence.
Getting back to some of those self-inflicted wounds, false starts. Obviously, there's different ones, but false starts with the offensive line. Like, what are you guys doing to get better in that department and just get that offensive line?
Tell Nick to wait for the ball to snap. I think Nick's leading the league, so focusing. Again, it's not always, and it's not just Nick. I just know that he's got the majority of them, I think. sometimes in our zest to get them, we get ourselves. We've been okay, I would say, trying to handle the road environment, which is crazy. When we're on a silent, I think we're locked in, and so sometimes when Ryan, has a voice inflection or things happen, just have to make sure that we're focused in, and we continue to practice those things. We work on a cadence when we condition, when we run. You'll see us do that again today. We echo the call, ask them to do all that, reminders. If sometimes the cadence changes at the line of scrimmage, we ask those guys from inside out to echo that. Just a lot of different things.
You've been a big proponent of attention to detail in terms of making sure that guys know exactly what to do. Has there been any drop-off in that in recent weeks as you've gone through this little rough patch?
Well, I think you look at all those things, and whether that's tied into performance, different parts. I don't think we've had busts. I don't think there have been a lot of egregious busts, but I do think that the details can always improve. We try to ask them to work through those things at each and every position, what they may be. I think they can always be better. I think understanding what they're in, what we're in, and trying to improve that way, and how your job may change based on the look that they give us, or the coverage that they're in, or the formation that they're in offensively.
It's pretty good success going out west since you've been here. Do you change anything during the week as far as schedules or travel or anything like that, or do you just kind of do your best to ignore it?
Try to just show up and play well, coach well. We went out early, I think, in Seattle. I don't think we'll do that now. It's a little longer flight to Seattle. We'll try to leave normal time, try to get in, what would be 4:30 or 5. I think try to stay consistent to whatever time zone that we're on, get some rest, and get up and, treat it like a 3:25 game.
Did that bother you as a player at all, or did you find you had to adjust as a player when you went out?
We had the double week one time where we stayed out there because we had 2 games out there back to back. But other than that, I don't really recall having it be too much of an issue.
Watching Staley's teams this year, he's shown propensity to be kind of a go-for-it guy. I think in some fourth down situations, does that change how you prepare?
Well, I think we always have to be kind of aware, especially, you get around the 50-yard line, or, you're inside the 5. They had Miami 3rd and 21, whatever it was, 3rd and goal from the 21, and they got it down to the 1-yard line on a screen. They went for it. A very similar situation to us. They scored right before half, and give them a lot of credit for executing that situation and getting down there and going forward and scoring. So, when you get past the 50 and you're in that fringe field goal range, there's a propensity that we have to be ready to defend, 2 downs, and we've had other teams with that philosophy as well. That seems to be the kind of the trend.
What's Traylon's status in the protocol?
Still in protocol.
What's the key for?
There's only 2. It's either in or you're out. And I can't really comment on, where he's at other than still in.
Is he in the light practice?
No, there's just still the in the protocol or out of protocol.
Same situation.
Still in protocol.
What's the key for a guy coming off injured reserve to be able to kind of hit the ground running and be successful? And how much you're hoping maybe Zach Cunningham could do that for you this week?
Well, I think that starts with their effort, the individual player's effort to get back, to work hard, to be engaged in the rehab, to strain through that process, and then once we feel like he gets close, we enter him back into meetings. They're on a different schedule when they're not in that meetings, when they're still 3 weeks away or 4 weeks away. Then they start, then the work that they do with Frank and Brian Bell. I think B. Bell does a fantastic job with that return to play before they get onto the practice field. He tries to meet and understand what he's going to have to do, what that player's going to have to do. He meets with our coaches about drills that they may have to do once they're back and movements. So then they work there, and then we, when the window opens up, then we make a decision and they start to practice. So I think conditioning is a large part of it as well. We talked about that last week with Racy and Josh. Both those players did really well on their return. So we'll see where Zach is.
With a limit on IR recalls and Ola's ultimate fate, is that one that maybe you'd like to have back?
No.
With these final 4 games, and you mentioned wanting to roll into the playoffs, on a high note, what is it about this group of guys that you feel, gives you the confidence that you guys could do that?
Well, I just enjoy the way they come to work. I think we're all disappointed Monday. The volume, again, around the building on Tuesday of guys came in to work and, lift or get treatment, check in with their coaches, whatever they had to do or wanted to do. And then I think the way that we started Wednesday and started today, start the process over. And, that's twofold. That goes for me, the coaches, the players. There's long days after you lose, and you got to try to get back going. And I think the biggest thing for me is when the players are here.
With Herbert's arm, his arm strength, is he a guy that when he extends the plays too, that he'll put a ball in places maybe that a lot of other guys wouldn't try? And how much do you have to guard against that?
I mean, I don't really, I think the arm talent is fantastic. I think the ability to move and extend plays. I saw a stat where he, I think had the most yardage outside the pocket the other night than any quarterback in the league. I think he had 150 yards outside the pocket, whether that's design plays for him to get out there or he's getting out there himself on third down, looking to throw but can run, can put it anywhere. So puts a lot of stress on you as guys start to uncover, whether that's out in the field or in the red zone.
Like your coaches say that it's easier to teach lessons when you're winning. When you're losing, do you find yourself being more positive, I guess, to try to get it turned around?
Well, I think that we all understand. This is professional football, and I think you have to be consistent. I try to coach the action and not the result. I really do. Whether we win or we lose, I try to coach things that come up in the game that have to be improved. Things that I recognize that we did well. And I think by what I mean is, if you give up contain or something and you make a play, you still have to recognize, say, hey, the next time that's going to be a huge gain. That quarterback that can scramble is going to be out of there. There's an element to making a play, but sometimes just because the play was favorable, you may have not necessarily done your job. And so I try to use those examples to them and saying, whether we win or lose, there's going to be things that we're going to have to improve, and then the things that we have to eliminate, such as the turnovers or the poor situational football at the end of the half, not affecting the quarterback, things that we know will get us beat.
That's Titans head coach Mike Vrabel at the podium. You'll hear from Ryan Tannehill in the final hour and some big Vols news coming your way next.
It is 12:03. Good afternoon from the Superbook.com Sports Desk. I'm Lucas Panzica. Titans moves today. The team designating linebacker Zach Cunningham to return to practice on IR. That opens up a 21-day window that would allow Cunningham to be activated to the active roster off of IR. The Titans also signed running back Jonathan Ward to the practice squad. That makes 4 practice squad additions with yesterday and today combined. On Tuesday, Titans signed quarterback Kevin Hogan, who spent some time with the team in 2021, as well as linebacker Zach McLeod and offensive lineman Jordan Ruse. Mike Vrabel just finished speaking with Titans media, saying that wide receiver Treylon Burks remains in concussion protocol as the team prepares to travel to the L.A. Chargers. Big local announcement coming up in just a matter of moments as 4-star linebacker Arion Carter out of Smyrna set to announce his college decision. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once in your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Final hour underway. Ryan Tannehill, Titans quarterback, going to speak to you here in just about 10 minutes from now. Lucas Panzica and myself, we're here with you. In the meantime, you can always join us. 615-737-1045. Now, we are awaiting breaking news. Or do we have breaking news at the moment? Based on Lucas's expression and the fact that I did not hear the breaking news and the aforementioned breaking news update, I'm going to assume that we do not have any decision from Jalen Hyatt yet.
No, there are 2 big decisions that Tennessee fans are awaiting on bated breath today. That is Jalen Hyatt, who said on his Instagram story that he will make an announcement at 1 p.m. He did not say what that would be, but one would imagine it has something to do with his status for the Orange Bowl and his decision on whether or not to enter the NFL draft. And 4-star linebacker Arion Carter out of Smyrna High School, who we have had on the show, 2022 Mr. Football in the 6A class, set to announce his college decision, which is believed to be between Alabama and Tennessee in just a matter of moments from Smyrna High School.
Okay, so we will keep you updated with that as it becomes available. Arion Carter wants to go on to be a doctor.
Yes.
That was a great conversation that we had with him. And should this go in favor of the Vols, we'll see. It would continue. So his primary position is linebacker. I mean, I know he does a little bit of everything, but he is being recruited as a linebacker, yes?
Yes. Now, he's an athlete, but yes, he played a lot of running back for Smyrna as well. But yeah, no, he's being recruited as a linebacker.
6'1", 215, and this would be a major coup for Tim Banks and this defense as they continue to try and stack talent in the 2023 class on that side of the ball. Now, defensive back wise, they could. What is the class currently looking like right now, Lucas? Beyond the known subjects, right? We've talked a million times over about Nico. We've talked about the pass rushers that they will be bringing in the next year. But what beyond that, beyond the top level talent, do we know about this Vols recruiting class right now?
Yeah. So at the moment, it's very defense heavy. I mean, some of the biggest names outside of Nico are on the defensive side, and there was a little bit of news on that the other day. David Hobbs, the defensive line prospect, 6'4", 277 out of North Carolina, committed to Tennessee. He was elevated to a 5-star by 247 Sports and elevated from being the number 38 player in the country to the number 20 player in the country. He's the number 1 player in the state of North Carolina. That was good news, just elevating the profile of this recruiting class that, as it stands, is the number 10 class in the country. Florida, with a bit of a surge, has hopped Tennessee in the top 10, but it is a top 10 class at the moment. Carter would certainly beef that up, but that's the takeaway. It's on the defensive side of the ball. I mean, other than Nico, like we said, the biggest names are David Hobbs, the defensive lineman, Chandavian Bradley, the edge rusher out of Missouri, Caleb Herring, out of right here in Murfreesboro, Riverdale High School. We've had him on the show. So you got to go down the list until you find that first 4-star prospect on offense, and that's Nathan Laycock out of North Carolina, who is a wide receiver. So edge rushers, defensive linemen, corners, defensive back heavy class. So there is a heavy emphasis on defensive talent in this class.
Good.
Yeah.
That's
Good. They got receivers for next year, especially if Hyatt, were to come back.
I can't imagine a scenario in which he does, right? It makes so little sense. Like, I know that, well, I don't know what the Hyatt, literal Hyatt NIL deal looks like. I don't know the terms of that. I just can't imagine it pales in I would have to imagine it pales in comparison longevity-wise. Even if he's not like the most successful NFL player, like he has the opportunity to earn way more money on an NFL contract than he does on an NIL deal that would last him through one more year?
Well, if he were to come back, could we liken it at all to the Hooker decision last year? And I know the quarterback is a different story, but with Hendon Hooker coming back last year, it was, okay, go do it again, right? I mean, I think he had more to prove, despite last year was not a good quarterback class.
Yeah, but do it again for this guy he just broke franchise or program records like this.
Sure, Hendon Hooker last year had was ridiculously efficient with his touchdown to interception ratio, and it somehow got better this year in that sense. So I don't know what kind of advice Hyatt is getting coming back from what he needs to work on from a physicality standpoint, a route running standpoint. I don't know. I mean, maybe there's more to prove there. Is it reaching to say that Tennessee's offense and the ability to get guys as open as it did could work against him in some way?
Yes. No, absolutely.
That he's running with nobody within 20 yards of him?
You look at, you go back, because I've very, very limited draft work that I start before as we get close to the end of the season, just because I don't want to get overwhelmed by it by the time we get there. When you watch a lot of these wide open plays, they're coverage busts. Like he's not winning in the conventional NFL sense, right? Yes, he has the size. He doesn't have the size. He has the skill and the speed and the ball, the ability to catch the ball with his hands, which is not something that you can take for granted. There are body catchers all over the NFL that are still trying to break themselves of that habit. A lot of his big touchdown plays come on coverage busts that the offense does well to scheme open, that are just not going to be, it's not going to be a reality in the NFL that way. So he's going to have to win in different ways than he was in college, because the offense helps him win a great deal. Now, he has to execute the play. He is capable of executing within this Tennessee offense. But Hendon Hooker, you use that as an example, and I find it curious because Hendon Hooker, you're right, the touchdown to interception ratio, the efficiency by the metrics did improve.
Breaking Vols news on 104.5 The Zone.
I took a breath. Joke's on you. You didn't get me that time. Bleep you.
Arion Carter did the double fake out.
Oh, no.
He picked up the Tennessee hat, started to put it on. Oh, he put it down.
No.
He picked up the Bama hat, he put that one down.
No.
Then he reaches under the table. He pulls out a Tennessee hat, and he puts it on. 4-star linebacker Arion Carter out of Smyrna High School commits to the Vols in the class of 2023.
So wait, it was a separate Tennessee hat? He had a whole other hat under the table?
Yes, he did the double fake out. But ultimately, he commits to Tennessee.
You couldn't do it because he's at his high school, right?
Yes, he's in his high school gym.
He couldn't do that. He couldn't do that if he wasn't going to pick Tennessee. People would rush the stage.
Well, I remember Quay Walker doing that. Quay Walker now having a fantastic rookie season with the Green Bay Packers. When he was committing, it was Pruitt's first class, and Pruitt made a heavy push on Walker, was a 4-star at the time, and Walker was a Georgia product. And Walker put on the Tennessee hat and then threw it across the room to put on the Georgia hat.
It is.
So there's some
of them are funny. Some of them are just like, all right, you're doing too much. But like that one legitimately makes me laugh. If you put the one hat on, put the other hat on, and then pull a third hat of the same school out from under the table, that's pretty funny.
Yeah, this is a big get for Tennessee. We talked to Arion. That's an impressive kid to talk to.
Absolutely.
I mean, wants to be an orthopedic surgeon. He was previously committed to Memphis. That's why he was committed to Memphis, because of the medical school. So I guess UT Medical to the rescue. Arion Carter.
I thought that was just you coping back there.
Really bright kid and a really good football player that is an All-American as well. He's going to play in the All-American Bowl coming up.
As Jalen Hyatt news becomes available, we'll give you that. But coming up next, Ryan Tannehill at the podium.
The Buck Rising Show is powered by Spring Hill Heating and Cooling. Visit springhillac.com.
The Titans offense is powered by quarterback Ryan Tannehill. We'll see what the quarterback has to say. He's currently at the podium right now, live from St. Thomas Sports Park.
Or a mistake or anything. Have you seen him angry much? Does he get angry much?
Who are we talking?
Graves?
Yeah, he gets angry. I think I've seen a lot of growth in him, and his body language and demeanor has been good. So he kind of sets the tone with how everything goes. People look to him, just being in the position that he is, a lot like they look to me, and I think he's conscious of that. So seen a lot of growth from him in that area, and positivity. When things haven't been going well, and I think it makes a big impact on how our guys respond on the sideline.
So the anger hasn't come out so much during these 3 games?
At least not into a visible way. Obviously, he's pissed. Everyone's pissed, right? When things aren't going well, you put so much time and effort and energy into it. Everyone gets angry, right? And I think it's how you take a second, you are angry, but then you're able to reel it back in and focus on making the corrections as opposed to just being ticked off at everything that's happening. So that goes to everybody, not just him, not just me, but everyone on our team. There's going to be mistakes. You're allowed to get pissed off for a second there, but got to be able to reel it back in and channel that energy in a good way.
What's it like? How do you keep your fundamentals together when you're hurting and you're under constant duress like you've been the last few weeks?
Oh, it's tougher, right? It's tougher, just the nature of the injuries and what you're allowed to, or not allowed, but what you're able to do, in practice, in games. It's definitely tougher, but hopefully as it continues to heal and get better, can keep working on those things.
Have you been happy with that, with yourself, your ability to keep that together?
Yeah, doing the best I can. I think it's a balancing act there of trying to do as much as you can and work the things as much as you can. But when you're banged up, your body's only able to do so much. So I think, that's not just myself, that's everybody on this team, right? We're all dealing with something to some degree, anybody who's played for us, So being able to work, everyone's on a different plan, everyone has different things they're trying to work on and are able to work on. Just being able to do that on a daily basis and ultimately carry it over to the games.
Fair to say, Ryan,
the injury side of that, but on the other side, actually in the game, like you're under duress all the time. How are you managing to keep your techniques and fundamentals in order to be able to do your job when you're constantly under duress?
Yeah, just focus on the task at hand, the job. I think you can't really worry too much about what's going on in front of you, around you. You got to be able to, try to move as best you can within the pocket and deliver the football in an accurate and timely fashion.
Ryan, the offense has done a good job starting games, going down the field, getting touchdowns, and then something happens or seems to happen in the second half, the scoring droughts and et cetera. In looking at film, is there anything that explains it, or is it just, things break down here and there no matter how hard you guys have been trying to clean things up?
I think it's different game by game. Look at this past game. We had really one possession, then we got down 3 scores by our first possession in the second half. So that kind of changed the whole way you had to approach the second half of that game. So definitely don't want to be in positions like that and are able to play a game our style and not be behind like that. So every game's different, but there's something to not getting behind like that, being more efficient, not turning the ball over in the first half is going to allow us to play our game in the second half.
Fair to say the first possessions of each half can kind of set the tone, or is that an overstatement, just on one possession?
If it's good, you like to build on it, and if it's bad, you have to be able to take a step back and wash it away. I think that's what it comes down to. There's going to be good plays, there's going to be bad plays, whether it's within a drive or a series. Sometimes one play can stop a drive, you know what I mean, whether it's a penalty or a negative play. Sometimes if it's an early down, you might be able to overcome it and keep going, and the same thing goes with drives. You have a drive, you get stopped, you come to the sideline, you make the adjustments, and they come out ready to go, the next drive. If you're able to move the ball efficiently and go down and score, then you want to build on that, keep that momentum going. So, that's what the game is. It's about, being able to build on momentum when you have it, and when you don't have it, being able to make enough plays to get it back and go from there.
When you see, you watch the film and you say, well, maybe if we had done this, or maybe this is not that bad. I mean, is it maybe not as bad as it seems in terms of what's going on right now, or is that not reality of being able to just say this is going wrong for us and it's got to get fixed?
Yeah, there's a lot of good things. We looked at that tape. In the first half, we did a lot of things really well. We were running the football. We were efficient in the pass game. We strung together drives. We were able to move the ball efficiently, get points. Got points on the first drive, had the hiccup in the second drive, went down and got another touchdown, the third drive. So we were moving the ball again before we had another turnover. So before half, we were moving the ball efficiently in a 2-minute. Right before half, we're inside scoring zone there, and the ball came out again. So we're doing a lot of good things. Ultimately, what killed us was the turnover. So that's something that we know going into each and every game. A lot like red zone, a lot like third down. Like there's critical points in the game, and ball security is a critical facet of the game that we're conscious of and put a lot of emphasis of and just have to be better at.
What do you think about Chick when he first got here? Maybe what's impressed you the most about him during his rookie season?
He just comes to work every day, and he seems to take advantage of every opportunity he gets. I think that's something that jumps out is, from early in the season, got on the ball a few times, and I said, hey, we got to get this guy the ball more. It just seems like, he's hard to bring down. He's physical. He catches the ball extremely well. He plays fast. He has everything you look for in a receiving and pass threat. So just building on those good things he's done. We've seen his role grow as the season's gone on, and just want to keep him improving in the right direction.
Chargers defense just statistically very middle of the pack compared to the rest of the league. What stands out to you the most about this Chargers defense?
You look at the way they played last week. They played extremely well. I think that's something that jumped off the tape was the disruptive in the pass game kind of really limited the run game of the Dolphins. So they're playing good right now. We're going to have to go out and we're going to have to execute, whatever the case may be, whether it's running the football, being efficient, being able to build on the good things we did last week in the first half, and when we get opportunities in the pass game, being able to take advantage of it.
Does the West Coast time difference ever make a difference for you personally? I know every player kind of has their own opinion on that, and Vrabel said you're not going to leave any earlier. It's going to be the same kind of routine.
Yeah, I don't think it does, especially from the Central Time Zone. I think, playing I guess what would be a 3:30 game, is not wild. I think maybe if it was a night game out there, if it was a 7 o'clock kick or something like that, which would be, a lot later for us, maybe that can have an effect. But, being a daytime kick, I don't think it really affects anything.
You guys are always focused one game at a time and the task at hand, but when you go down a stretch like this and you lose a division game, can it be difficult to not look in the rearview mirror a little bit to where you're at in the division and the state of things?
I mean, you look at what's happened and you want to get out of it. I think you're not blind to, what has happened in the past few weeks. You look at it for what it is and want to get the ball going in the right direction. And the way to do that is to go out and play well and get a win against the Chargers this week.
I guess the flip side of that, how much are you pointing to, hey, despite how maybe bad things have been of late, we're still in a position to win the division, do everything we wanted to do? How much are you pushing that message this week?
Yeah, everything we want is still right in front of us. Obviously, you want to get hot at the right time, and this is the end of the year, right? This is the point where we want to start getting hot, as the season finishes. So, gotta start stacking things in the positive way and moving things in the right direction, and ultimately, got to start that out by getting a win this week.
About Robert Woods this year, Ryan, and maybe how has your kind of relationship sort of grown, on the field, chemistry on the field?
Yeah, I'm excited to get to play with Robert, and he's a fun guy to play with. You look at how he played this last game and how he's kind of bought into what we do here. Blocking physically. I just was enjoying watching him on tape. Just the way he was physical in his blocks. He's getting in there. He's throwing his stuff around and making an impact on things that aren't glorified, right? No one's giving shout-outs in the media or whatever, social media for blocking, but it's something that we put a lot of emphasis on, and I respect the hell out of a guy who's going to go in there and throw his nose in there and do the dirty work for us, especially a veteran player like he has who's accomplished a lot in this league, and he has a good feel for what we're doing. He's making plays for us in the pass game, and that's something that jumped out for me last week was a veteran guy like him, going in there and throwing it around.
Just taking a flyer here, when you were coming out of high school in Texas, did you ever visit Texas Tech, or did you ever have any reason to cross paths with Mike Leach? I know you haven't. I think I read somewhere you were a Texas Tech fan growing up. Did you admire him from afar? Did you ever meet him? Kind of what are your thoughts on him?
Yeah, I met him briefly. I grew up a Texas Tech fan. Both my parents graduated from Texas Tech. Grew up going to their games, several games a year. It was 90 miles up the road, so grew up going to Texas Tech games. I wanted to get recruited by Tech, but it wasn't in the cards. I was a wing T guy. As offense, we were wing T my last couple of years, and obviously, Leach was a spread it out and air it out kind of guy. But that offer never came. But I went up there for a camp and I was able to talk with him for just briefly. But he accomplished a lot, right? You look at a guy who Coach of the Year for his conference multiple times over the course of his career, successful pretty much everywhere he went. So a guy who did it a different way than the norm, I would say. Just his mannerisms and the way he went about things was a little bit different than the norm, but effective and had success doing it.
That's Titans quarterback Ryan Tannehill at the podium with media. We do have more breaking Vols.
Breaking Vols news on 104.5 The Zone.
I was ready for it this time.
Yeah, you were. You were drawing it out.
I leaned into it a little bit. I just assumed it was coming. I don't know. It's head games you're playing with me now. I think it's coming, it doesn't come, and then I'm in the middle of the sentence, and you just hit me with it like a hammer.
Tennessee wide receiver Jalen Hyatt has declared for the 2023 NFL Draft, and in a lengthy statement has stated he will not be participating in the Orange Bowl, but he, like Cedric Tillman, went out to say that he will be in Miami with the team.
So I have the statement. I mean, it is a long statement. I'm not going to read all of it.
The long statement.
But I'll summarize. After careful consideration with my family, I've decided to begin preparing for the 2023 NFL Draft. Though I will not be playing in the Orange Bowl, I will be there in Miami to support my teammates like I always have. I've tried to the best of my ability to honor those who have come before me and pay it forward for those who will come after. The volunteer spirit will remain with me forever as I pursue a lifelong dream of playing in the NFL. Thank you, and go Vols. So that makes the most sense.
Yeah,
makes the most possible sense. I think any. I mean, obviously the scenario exists where he says it's 50-50, and then you can start to say, okay, well, why the hell would it be 50-50? What sense does that make? And there are some reasons that you could put in the pros of a pro-con analysis and returning. But ultimately, this is the thing that makes the most sense financially. It's the thing that prevents him, at least immediately, from experiencing any kind of unexpected setbacks. Should he play in the bowl game and then go to the draft? Of course, that's nonsensical. Don't risk it. And, Tennessee does seem to be secure at the wide receiver position. You would like a player with that kind of production back, obviously. But he's not going to get better with Joe Milton than he did under Hendon Hooker unless Nico just comes on the scene and is ungodly right out the gate. But I have zero expectation right now for Nico Iamaleava.
So with that, and I don't know what the conversation had been like between Heupel and Hyatt in the last few days, but what would be more valuable for Josh Heupel, having Jalen Hyatt come back with Milton at quarterback, although you probably feel secure about what you have at the wide receiver position coming back. If Ramel Keaton comes back, Squirrel White will be back, and Brew McCoy will be back next season. So you feel good about that position. White can kind of slide into the Jalen Hyatt role. So if you're Josh Heupel, what's more valuable? Having Hyatt come back with the risk of dropping off from production, or having a receiver taken in the first 2 days of the draft?
Where is he being projected right now? Do you know?
I've seen it.
It may be premature.
I've seen it's very premature for that stuff, but I've seen it as high as second-round pick.
Okay.
And there's a long process still to come.
Because, who else? Darnell Wright, who's declared for the Senior Bowl, who has not made an announcement about whether he's playing in the bowl game or not. But
Byron Young, also Senior Bowl, the edge rusher.
So, of those guys, Wright based on some premature analysis, Wright is regarded as one of the better, if not the best, right tackle in the draft. So, it would be beneficial to have more draft picks that you can just say after, when they do the SEC tallies at the end of the draft, as they always do, and Alabama has not 25 players, but, 15 players selected in all 7 rounds, and Tennessee has 3, but that's more than they had last year, right? Yeah. So I think for both the immediate and the long term, I think it's more beneficial to have him go to the draft.
I think it helps all parties. I
Yeah.
mean, you would have loved to have Hyatt back in 2023.
Sure.
But we've looked curiously at the Tennessee recruiting cycle under Heupel and wondered, okay, when are the big-time receivers going to start committing? Because that's the one thing that hasn't happened.
That was my biggest question after Arch committed and all the wide receivers started
They
flooding
followed
to Texas.
Arch. Right. It hasn't happened in that way for Tennessee. So that could be a big step toward that. Having a guy like Hyatt drafted in the second round. We're just throwing out,
Well, and on top of that-
estimations. But yeah, just 1 to 2 first or second day of the NFL draft.
And on top of that, as we've discussed before, there's just not spots for dudes to play.
Yeah.
They just if you want to have success recruiting the wide receivers, then there has to be the option for the wide receiver to be able to get on the field at some point beyond, injury. They just don't have that kind of a wide receiver rotation. At least they haven't to this point. I can't imagine that's going to change drastically now that this kind of core is getting ready for its next stages. But it is it's good PR to have Jalen Hyatt go at the peak of his powers to the NFL draft and maximize his draft potential.
It's that sample size of, look what I did in year 2 with this guy. Look what I did in year 2 of him breaking all these single-season records and then sending him to the NFL. I mean, a lot of coaches are probably having these conversations. What's more valuable for Nick Saban? To have Bryce Young play in the Sugar Bowl and beat Kansas State? Or to have Bryce Young go into the draft process fully healthy, be a first-round pick, and figure out more about what he has at the quarterback position next season?
Especially the quarterbacks. Like, Saban doesn't have a great track record of drafted quarterbacks. I mean, they're getting better as of late in the last couple of years, but that was always the knock on Alabama before they started actually recruiting the quarterbacks.
I think Mac Jones, Jalen Hurts, and Tua have changed that entire
Yeah, no, that's several years of recruiting.
And then Bryce
cycles
Young's
where
just going to be another one.
We are far removed from the A.J. McCarron days.
Right,
where
but
was
that
the
also
peak of-
coincides with Saban completely overhauling their offensive philosophy.
Sure. I'm
and,
not
and
disputing
evolving
that.
with it, yeah.
So, I wonder who gets drafted first now, Hyatt or Tillman. I would think it would still be Tillman. I would have to think that it would still be Tillman. He was projecting as a second round pick prior to the injury. And I mean, the physical ability is still there. Obviously, having the tightrope surgery, missing 4 games. Is that right? In the middle of the season, missed a chunk of the season.
It's one of those things that, like we talk about with preseason predictions or score predictions, that are so useless at this time of year.
No, it's fair because there's all kinds of medicals that they're going to undergo. Obviously, we're far away from the combine, the Senior Bowl, things of that nature. Hyatt's not a senior.
And you can look at surface level measurables that Tillman would have the advantage in, but you're talking about the interview processes that those guys go through, the combine, the pro day, and team needs when those guys are on the board during the draft process.
Okay,
Don't
get upset.
Well, I'm just getting a little fired up.
It's just a small question. I was just curious. Just to float out there in the ether. 10 deep breaths or 20 short ones, whatever brings it back in for you. Jeez, bud.
You want me to whisper? What do you want from me?
I just said that. You do have a tendency, I have to slow you down.
I rise.
Yeah, but then it just becomes the point of you're shouting, trying to shout over you, and it's just not good for anybody.
We're in full agreement, just shouting at each other.
It happens. In fact, it happens quite a bit. And for some reason, we look around because both of us have a tendency to do that. Why are we yelling? At who? See, I'm doing it right now. I'm not even mad. I'm just I'm getting more animated.
Got me in trouble my entire life at school.
Yeah, it's so stupid. All right, it worked out for us. Last call for phone calls, 615-737-1045 is how you jump in. Before we wrap things up, we'll do some polls. Call it a day. So let's wrap it up here on this Wednesday. Don't forget, Kevin Byard's on the radio show tomorrow. Always a good time to catch up with KB. And this is, I mean, it feels like that's the kind of person that you want to hear from right now, right? Like somebody who's got, I don't want to say direct control over what's going on in the locker room right now, but if anybody's going to have a good handle on it, it's Byard. So we'll look forward to catching up with him tomorrow at about 12:15. Also, this afternoon, as soon as I leave here, or in about an hour after I leave here, we're going to do a new episode of The Install with Greg Cosell. Get you ready for this Chargers game, so keep a lookout for that in your podcast feed. The TransPerfect Music City Bowl, Saturday, December 31st, and 104.5 The Zone has your chance to win tickets to one of Nashville's holiday traditions. Sign up for your chance to win tickets and see a Kentucky versus Iowa showdown.
Yes.
At Nissan Stadium by going to 1045thezone.com today.
Let me look up the over-under for that. What do you think it is? With Will Levis has opted out.
He's not playing. Who else for Kentucky is not playing?
Chris Rodriguez Jr., the running back.
Oh, the running back, yeah.
Yeah, they're two best players on offense.
Yeah. I mean, I would the under.
I'm so excited for this game.
It has to be 40 points. Like it can't be more than 40 points, right?
I think it might be less than that. I'm scrolling. I'm trying
It
to
can't
find
be
it.
less 20 points apiece. It can't be less than that.
I will be surprised if both of these teams get to. If the over/under is 40, I am hammering the under. There's no way both teams could score three times. Okay, it's 31.5.
Oh my God.
Under, taking it, done deal.
You're betting under 30?
Absolutely. Sprinkle a little something.
You know that? Okay. I'm going to use a reference that maybe not all of the audience is going to get, but the Sickos Committee, that account on social media, oh my God.
This is the Sickos Committee's dream, this game.
Mwah, chef's kiss.
Iowa and Kentucky.
Yeah, so a sicko college football game is basically what these people monitor on the internet.
Iowa 2.5-point favorites.
How would you do? I mean, there is no better definition of a sicko college football game than an opt-out Iowa-Kentucky game.
I think the sicko bowl for those guys was Iowa when they played Northwestern this year. But I think the TransPerfect Music City Bowl.
It may be the new one.
I can't wait for this game.
We'll rename the bowl after the fact to the Sickos Committee Bowl. So, as far as the Titans are concerned, the thing that I'm most curious to see today, they'll be out on the practice field. 105, they're scheduled to take the field. And so Mike Vrabel said of Traylon Burks, concussion protocol, as is Trey Avery. Concussion protocol does not rule them out from participating to a degree in practices. It just means that they continue to be in the concussion protocol as they try and work their way back in. So how much Traylon Burks does this week at all, obviously, is a big story. The other names that are worth watching, Danico Autry, though it does not sound like that is anywhere in the immediate future. Christian Fulton, it would be beneficial to have him back, although, man, he's going through it this season with the hammy stuff, now a groin injury. I don't know. I mean, he's going to play if he's medically cleared to do so, but I don't know how much more you can toss guys like that out there when they're not 100%, when your pass rush is as diminished as it has been. We have a goal. What are you looking at?
No. I'm just glancing at the pregame coverage. Kickoff at 1 between France and Morocco.
Distracted by the fireworks display in Qatar, are you?
So what would you rather have if this was March Madness? And so France plays Morocco for the chance to go play Argentina in the World Cup final.
Yes.
If this was the NCAA tournament and you had a blue blood that had already won its semifinal, like Kansas is already there. They're in the national championship game. And on the other side, it's Duke who is playing St. Peter's in the semifinal. What would you rather have? Would you be rooting for Duke because you want the heavyweight matchup and the better game, or are you just going underdog all the way? Because I'm torn here because France is playing Morocco, and I don't know if I want the France versus Argentina heavyweight final or if I want the underdog to just keep pushing.
To go to the championship game?
Mm-hmm.
No, I want the best talent on the field or on the court. I want to watch the best players, the most NBA talent. I want to watch the best possible game, and I can't trust the St. Peter's. Are they the Peacocks?
Yeah,
the Peacocks that made the run this year out of St. Peter's, Florida. Yeah, I don't want the Peacocks in the NCAA final. No.
Well, I
Get out of
guess
here.
the difference is I think Morocco could find a way to beat France and or Argentina. So I think I'm going with the Atlas Lions.
But this is different, right? Like, the World Cup, and I just don't necessarily think it's a good comparison because
it's not a good comparison.
I'm watching the NCAA final for different reasons than I'm watching the World Cup. If I'm watching the World Cup, it's just purely for the enjoyment because I think I'm like most people where I'm not necessarily following EPL. I don't know all of the different players and all the different clubs that they play there in their individual leagues for, but I do enjoy the just the symbolism, like the Olympics, right? I'm not watching snowboarding in any other time of the year unless the Olympics are on, the Winter Olympics, because I want to see the competitiveness and country versus country that way and how much more people get up for it. So, yeah, I mean, to see Morocco do the unthinkable, which it sounds like this would theoretically be unthinkable.
Yes, but they are good enough and organized enough to win this game.
Okay. Polls.
Hello, my name is Borat. There is a show in America called Buck Rising. I like very much. As a man named Lucas, like my producer Azamat Bagatov, will update something called Final Pollings. I'm very excited, very excited. Do it, Lucas. La 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 la.
Presented by Two Rivers Ford, who sells below MSRP on all non-specialty new Fords. What is the dumbest thing in sports this week? Many folks just saying, Mike Vrabel saying he's not making coaching changes in the season.
I mean, yeah. Or could you turn it on its head and say the people who continue to wish for Mike Vrabel to make coaching changes when they know he's not going to make the coaching changes? Are you the dumbest thing in sports this week?
Which injured player are the Titans missing the most right now? Danico Autry, Traylon Burks, or Taylor Lewan? 45% say it's Autry, 40% say it's Lewan, 15% say it's Burks.
We're going to talk about that tomorrow.
What is the best thing about this Titans offense? Or what is the best thing this Titans is doing on offense? Or what is the best things the Titans do on offense? We need to get out of here. Lebowski says not catch themselves on fire.
Oh, well, and I tweeted. Did you see what I tweeted back to him? Look at the reply.
The picture of the field on fire.
The picture of the Titans field literally on fire. And I said, be careful. Be careful.
Jake says when they get the ball to Chig and Traylon.
Yeah. No, I mean, when Traylon is out there, yes. But I mean right now. And Traylon Burks has not been available for 2 games at this point. Or for the bulk of 2 games at this point. So I would say Chig is the best thing that they're doing. But Derek was for a half, and then it all went to bleep.
When do you start to check in with college hoops? The start of the season, right about now-ish, after the new year, or just never? 44% say they wait till after the new year. 21% say they're right there at the start. 15% say now. 20% say never.
I'm probably in the 15%. Like, I'll watch Indiana games, but like they're not putting the early like terrible cupcake games on like Big Ten Network and stuff like that. So I'm probably right about now. Like there was nothing else on television last night. Throw on the Alabama-Memphis game. It was a great game. Enjoyed it.
For me, it's Thanksgiving-ish when you have the battle for Atlantis and all these early season tournaments.
Yeah, like the PK 85 this year I watched. Okay, so maybe closer to the start of the season for me.
Do you hone in or home in on something?
This is divided.
Very divided. Puka says if you think about it, they can be interchanged. To hone in with an N is to move towards something. To hone in, to focus, I don't know. I
screwed that up.
We just, I don't know. It's hone. It's hone with an N.
This is the most controversial topic we've ever had. My phone has been on fire since we put that out into the ecosystem.
I don't care if it's correct. If you say you're homing in on something, you're wrong.
It's very uncomfortable to say, but apparently it's grammatically correct. Those the polls?
Those are the polls.
All right, very good. That's very, very dismissive. That's the show. Kevin Byard tomorrow. We'll have a great time. Prime time tonight. I'll see you then. If not, radio show gets started.